Again, like usual, forget to unmute my microphone once again. Welcome everyone to LIBERcast episode 89. Thank you very much for joining us in whatever you came in live or in and you came back to listen it later. Thank you very much for being part of the LIBERcast. Thank you to the guest who was there, the guests who are coming. Thank you because you're very important. You are pillars of the LIBERcast. So thank you for being there, everyone. Like usual, we are part of the One Great Work Network. It is a place where you can find useful information, crucial information, and there's people there who are working their ass off to inform us with the occult, psychology, geoengineering, occult traditions, and things like that morality and natural law. So there's like hundreds of hours of stuff to discover at the One Great Work Network. And there's some French people, actually. For the French people who will listen, there's me, there's Dom Tremblay. Where is Dom? There. So for the French people who listen, there's French stuff there on the page, and I'll try to upload more stuff on my own page there. So here we go. Welcome, James.
Hey, Fred.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Welcome. So today I think it's gonna be a important subject, and I think it's we should do it before, and I think I thank you for being there and sharing with me about that. I think it's gonna be a step forward to this unity we have in the occult and freedom community, and try to show and stop saying it and doing something about this. And this is an important it's an important work. The One Great Work is not just the work of one people. It's all the people who are partaking in it, and it's very, very important that we are working on the same page and create this network and solidifying it, make it sturdier and more deep and try to bring more people in it, and those people who will come with the time. So welcome on the LIBERcast. And can you talk quickly about your path into the great work and how it starts?
Well, how it starts for me is probably very similar to how it starts for a lot of people. Pretty much just living through life, always having this feeling that something is not right, something just feels off. Looking around my surroundings, thinking, what's going on here? Why does everybody seem to just like do the same thing over and over and over again? Children going to public school just like their parents did, people voting and listening to government, and then when on their spare time complaining about it. And it's like you're not really doing anything to change the situation. I grew up in an environment, that's the gist of it. The environment that I grew up in, it's just a bunch of people complaining and not doing anything. As far as what really leads a guy like me to really start speaking up and speaking out about things that I'm discovering along the way. Some mistreatment from authority figures and stemming back to early childhood, and into even to these days, because until they're gone, the mistreatment won't stop for any of us, right? So mix that in with becoming a father, and hey, you got me. Then the whole world wants to go nuts during this, bullshit pandemic that's kicked off in 2020. And then I actually had started a podcast shortly before then. In the fall of 2019, I had started a podcast. I've been thinking about doing one for like, I don't know, off and on. The thought crossed my mind for a couple of years. And I was like, maybe I could do that. Maybe I could get my friends together and we could talk about, some spiritual stuff, consciousness, individuality, freedom, things of this nature. It's where I started, really. That was like the first description of the show that I started back in 19. But yeah, I mean, now it's just off to the races. I've been doing the podcasting for a few years now, and then I do some, impromptu lectures on my show, and I've done a presentation at a conference that I organized alongside Joe Murray in 2022 called "Shattering the Illusion." A presentation, the presentation I made is called "ADHD: A Modern Attack on Free Thinkers." And that was, a labor of love. So and then I just do my podcast, like, I have my website, Free Your Mind New England, and my podcast is called The Hitchhiker's Guide to Truth, where I do interviews very similar to this, to your style. We share a lot in common with that, and that's where I host my random rants and impromptu lectures if the if the time calls for it. But yeah, so that's basically me, in a nutshell. Yeah. Thank you for having me here again, Fred. It's something to be said about the two of us getting back together on a podcast, and so I'll leave it to you from here.
So I mean, we should not be stagnant, in this work. I think we must go forth with the things we have to do. And if it's to uh 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 how can I say that? I'm searching my words. Um Reconcile these relationship we have with different people, different beliefs, different opinions, different ideologies, and to stop dividing ourselves in the freedom movement, in the occult movement, in the spiritual movement. We are as far as we can from unity, and it's in and this is a truth that it's very inconvenient for a lot of people, but because some people live into bubbles, and they can they we have to go well over these bubbles. We have to get where it's uncomfortable, you know like doing the job we're doing, both of us. It's showing our face and our names, and confront this masses of people maybe don't have any idea of what we are bringing to this information. And it's not only to get the people who are not in the network, who are not in the community, but it's to bring them from the people from the outside, and make them partake in it, and building up from there. But we need a strong foundation for that, and I think this is the responsibility of everyone who are involved in that.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. I mean, um, if there's a lot of infighting, if there, people are going to have differences. People are going like you and I have our differences. We will butt heads on things, and that should be celebrated. And there are misunderstandings that happen, and maybe sort of people get at each other's throats about things. And hey, that's a part of life. But the thing is that like when we're in this fight for freedom, and we don't have a lot of time left. We really just don't. I think that there's enough time left to make a difference. We'll always have that opportunity until the shackles are on and we're like heading toward the train cars or whatever, but we're not there yet, and there's still a lot of time to make sure that thing that I just described never happens. But we're not going to be able to avoid that if the people that are in the know, who like know the principles of natural law and understand them well enough to communicate them back out to people in a clear and concise manner, if we're all fighting with one another, if those people that understand these things are always fighting with one another, you know, the team is going to fall apart.
Yep.
It's like the same team mentality that needs to be readopted. And I'm not saying that it's just like uh, this huge brawl behind the scenes where every one of us is like, wanting to kill each other or anything like that. And then we get on camera and we're all smiles or it. No, no, no. But there are from time to time, some things thrown around, and people don't always get along, and that's fine. You're not meant to always get along, but at least like realize that we're all working toward the same thing. And don't be a jerk. I guess is like what I'm trying to say. Like don't be a dick. But it's there's two ways that we can go about this. We can have a winning mentality, a same team that's going to win mentality, and we can push forward from there, or we can give in to this uh infighting, or we can do that route, and then the whole thing could fall apart. It's like a lot of people a lot of people agree on like 98% of the things that need to get done, right? But then they spend 100% of their time arguing over the 2% of things that they disagree about, and that's not productive. And we like I think that there's a lot of people, like there's a lot of people that aren't even. And you know what, like the guys, all of us on the network, we're pretty much there, we're unified, right? But there's a lot of people out there that like to talk about natural law and everything. They talk about property rights. They'll talk about objective morality. They don't have the first fucking clue of what any of that means, and yet they'll try to argue with somebody like myself or maybe even you on some bullshit platform like Facebook or something like that, and they just don't have the first clue. And you try to clue them in, and they just ask the dumbest questions. They say the dumbest things, and it's just like there's nothing you can do for a person like that. And then they come out and they try to attack you. It's just like what is going on? But um, what do you think about that, Fred? Do you encounter people on social media at all like that, or am I just scrolling too much?
um Personally, I didn't have people arguing about natural law or the works that I done. I get no critics, no backlash, no censorship, almost no censorship anyway. Maybe there's shadow banning, but essentially there's groups and clubs and and little microcosm that is building into social medias, and they think because 15 people think like them that everybody think like that, and I think it's a logical fallacy. It's ignorance, and it makes it this work is universal work. I don't ask money for it. I'm not like try to take the power of the people. I try to give back to the people. So I think I have a good answer from the people in this side. Sure, maybe some things that I say may be a little rough, maybe a little bold, but I think we need to do that. And groups like that like you're talking, let's talk about ideological, like veganism.
Mm.
Let's talk about this because I think we have both experiences in this thing there, and about animal rights and things like that, and why it is so divisive.
I think that it's so divisive is because, first of all, the animal rights activists are correct. I'll come right out and say that they are correct. Those animals are not our property. We don't own them. They're not our slaves. And when you're telling massive amounts of people that their diets are incorrect, there is going to be backlash about that. There's going to be a very visceral reaction to that. It is kind of like a religion. It is kind of like, this religion of carnism. Um, and maybe I would be not the best guy to speak about it because I'm not a vegan, but I still understand and I know what I'm doing to be ultimately incorrect action. Does that disqualify me from being able to speak about the principles of natural law and these things that will bring our species to the ultimate bring us to freedom? I don't think so.
Hmm.
I don't think that just because I don't practice what I preach to the ultimate extent that it disqualifies me from saying, hey, there's an equation here that will get us to a much freer position as a species. And I think that that honestly should be the main focus point on uh, on our approach toward
Hmm.
um, toward gaining momentum in this movement. I am 100% aware that consuming animal flesh is wrong. I don't know what the correct I don't know what the correct diet is. All right, I'm not the guy for that conversation. Okay, but I do know one thing is that we don't own them. They are not our property. They are not our slaves. And real freedom won't happen until every species is free. But if we're such a great species, how come we can't free ourselves first and then be like, okay, we're coming, like one of those scenes in an action movie where the guy's like, I'm coming back for you. I'm coming back for you. And he's like, oh, and then he goes and, he'll come back and rescue his buddy or whatever. What I'm trying to say is that we don't pull the ladder up behind us. So I don't know. Maybe I'm a crazy person for having this perspective, but let me let me pose this question for you and the audience. What do you think you're gonna get a cattle rancher on your side from like Texas or someplace in the Midwest? You think you're gonna get a person that's doing that, his whole life, generations of his family, all these things? You think you're gonna get him on your side by approaching him and saying your entire way of life is incorrect? and you have to give it all up. Maybe no one's saying that. Maybe I'm just building up a bullshit argument or whatever. Or do you think you'll get a lot more traction with a person like that who already here's the thing. Here's the big clue. Like 100% of people already disagree with government. They just have the mind virus of thinking that the fucking organization has to exist. They disagree with it no matter what it looks like, but they think it has to be there. So we need to detach them from that ideology where they are thinking that this entity has to exist in some way, shape, or form. It needs to be there. But no matter what it looks like, they disagree with it. So it's this cognitive dissonance that we need to heal. So this is what I'm talking about when I say, like, what kind of argument do you think you're going to be able to actually propose to this person in particular, this type of person who's been doing this for generations? Think seriously. Or do you approach the person and go, hey, all those taxes that you pay, all that shit that they make you do, all the stupid bullshit that you know is unnecessary for you to live a life where you're not harming other people, let's team up, you know? And then we can talk about your way of life later. I'm just saying that it's a pretty decent approach. I think you get a lot more people on your side without disrupting so much at once.
Yeah.
And trust me, I want to go all the way. I do, but I'm just being rational here. And you know what? Like when it comes to all the vegans out there, how many of you are actually doing everything 100% correctly yourself? Okay, you got your diet right, but where are your kids? Do you have children? Are you married to their mother? Maybe not married, but are you with their mother? Are you guys together in a relationship, raising your kids together? Are your kids in public schools? Okay, because if these are the questions you need to ask. Like, how are you treating other people around you? Is it perhaps is it your right to be a dick to someone else? Because like let's say this. I'm trailing off. I'm sorry, I trailed off there for a second, but I'm just saying that, like, too many people forget that you're supposed to heal yourself and you're supposed to point the finger back at yourself before you go pointing at anyone else. And I know my rant here about veganism certainly does sound like a lot like I'm pointing the finger at them. But remember, at the beginning of my rant, I said they're correct. So I'm not pointing the finger at them. I'm just saying, here, have a little check. I'm putting you in check. I'm saying, let's readjust just the way that we think, the process in which freeing everyone has to happen. And I'm proposing that our species, being this supposed great species on this planet, perhaps we should free ourselves first. Right. And so with that, I'd throw it back to you, man. What do you think about the things I just said?
Usually, I'm the kind of guy who will play the devil's advocate in this. I mean, I was vegan for a few years, and then I had problem with my health. Not like serious problem, but I had some lacks in some compound that we need to survive and for our body to be healthy. And then I decided to go back to vegetarianism. So I'm not regretting everything. I did what I had to. I learned a lot from it. But my counter question for the people is, where are you willing to go to justify slavery? Comfort? Security? What is the nature of this argument? And I think it's very, very interesting. And in all the conversation that I had I did some animal right activism. I did it. And it was a profound emotional experience, because you realize that we aren't separated. The animals and us are the same. We are connected intimately together. But it's not the subject for tonight. I wanted just to bring this because it keeps on separating people. And if at this point you're spiritual, if you consider yourself spiritual and accepting and all love and light, and you still grind your teeth, you still argue and insult people because of that, because of their dietary choices, then you're not awake at all. I consider this a worthless argument when we're talking about freedom, when we're talking about spirituality. We have to do better. It's not like we cannot do it. It's simple. Take your belief, take your ideology, there's no connection with the occult, and then put them aside if you cannot like argue or debate or things like that. There's always two sides to things. And I like this conversation because it's very telling about the state of this psychic, like psyop and things like that. All these things that are these things are separating us, and they are used as weapons against us, against the group like us, like spiritual groups, freedom groups. Some people believe in government, and they still vote even if they are freedom, and we're gonna vote our tyranny away, things like that it's make no sense. We have still to deal with spiritual voters. They think they're free, and they're going to vote, and that's another thing. Their statism. And why do I have no argument online because of that? It's because I tell the simple truth about it. It's really easy to destroy justification for government. We don't have the time anymore for these childish these childish confrontations. Even online it's ridiculous. We don't have to agree on everything. We don't have to agree on the way we're thinking, and what all we're doing things. There's things that are way more important than that. And you brought it, and I mean, I have children. We're homeschooling them. They never went to school. We're all vegetarians. My children never ate meat ever, and they're lively, happy children. So it's not any justification or for an argument when we're talking about freedom or the occult or things like that, because it's a fucking waste of time. It's like the shape of the earth. Oh my fucking god.
Yeah, so that's very interesting, because it's like, why are you arguing over the shape of the cage? You know? So, like, you mentioned something about that I want to say, like, there is one thing that we should be trying to all get on the same page about, and that is the fact that all government at any time in any place is inherently immoral and illegitimate. That is where we all need to be on the same page. Okay. Does not mean that we can't organize into groups to get work done for communities, all these types of really great things that people think government is necessary for. Okay. But we all need to be on the same page of this one thing. Government is an intergenerational organized crime syndicate, and they seek to enslave us to the maximum extent possible. And that is what we're up against.
Yep.
That is what really matters,
Mm-hmm.
because there is no freeing any other species if we're enslaved. It's just, I might have, hey, if I have flawed logic behind that, you can find me at my website. It's up on the screen right now. You can contact me through there. You can yell at me all you want, and that's fine. But just remember, like, this is what unifies people is, let's focus on common ground. I'll ask some questions. Do you think government is immoral? Yes, okay, we're friends. Yay. You know? Do you think that statism is a religion? Yes. Okay, we're friends. All right, cool. Do you think that it's appropriate for us to initiate harm toward other sentient beings? Right? If you think the answer to that is no, that it's inappropriate, okay, cool, we're friends. Right? Because that's where I'm at too. Even though a small part of that last thing I just said, I don't necessarily live up to, but I certainly don't go around hurting peaceful people. So I'm starting somewhere, and I have the knowledge up in my head. But to say you know and not to do is to not know at all. That's a bunch of bullshit. At this moment in time, we can't be saying things like that that's not helpful. That's counterproductive, you know? And we're going to push people away if that kind of rhetoric is going to be what we hold on to. What kind of hill do people want to die on? What do you like, what kind of hill do you really want to die on? Because you're going to die up there alone, and you don't need to die on it at all, really. Like, we can do this. We can be free. We can have freedom, not just freedoms, you know? I've gotten onto this new kick about pointing out there's definitely a difference between those two words, freedom and freedoms, and it's not just, so the pluralization of the word freedom into making it into freedoms, you think that the pluralization of that word actually limits the word. It doesn't multiply it. It actually limits it. Freedom is infinite. Freedoms is limited. My freedoms. Well, how many of those do you have? Or do you have all of them? And if you had all of them, then you'd have freedom. There would be no S on the end of that word. So that's what we're looking toward getting, is freedom. So if you know how to do that, we're friends. If that involves government, if you think government secures your freedom, you're lying to yourself. You have a problem up here that you need to seriously solve, and perhaps we can help you solve that problem. So that's all I really care about. That really, at this moment in my life, on my journey, I look at my kids and I think about their future, and and I just, all I care about is, are you a statist? Do you want to advocate for government doing violence toward people? Do you want to advocate for that? If you're an advocate for that, I don't want you around me. I don't want you around my children, my wife. I just don't. My wife chooses who she has around her. So that's one thing. She's a grown woman, strong, powerful lady. She can make decisions. I don't need to make decisions for her. Trust me. I wouldn't even want to try. She's probably going to beat me up if I tried to do that. Just kidding. I'm safe at home. But I am very much, I am very much sick and tired and through with people that are strong advocates for government, especially a lot of these statists will talk out of the side of their mouth and be like, I disagree with everything the government does. And then they'll go and cast their ballot every couple of years here in the United States. And it's like, if you disagreed with them so much, why do you keep jerking them off under the table? You'd think that you'd actually stop doing the shit that you think puts them in power. That doesn't. maybe your local communities, I don't know. I think on a smaller scale, you might have a little more sway, you know, if you have like your town and you want to organize and you got a guy that's really good at one thing, maybe everyone gets together and goes, "Hey, I think Bob over there should be in charge for a little bit." Okay, cool. Bob's in charge. We're going to build a community center. He knows how to he knows how to build that building. Bob's in charge. All right, sweet. Doesn't mean he's in charge forever. So I'm saying on a microcosm scale, uh, voluntary interactions, voluntary organization of it can happen. It's legitimate so long as it's voluntary, and as long as you see the results in front of you, the results speak for themselves. And that way, it's not exactly statism that I'm advocating for here. It's just pointing out that there are ways that small groups of people, maybe even up to a few thousand people, can come together and say, "Hey, this is our shared goals and strategies, and we know that there's those among us that are really good at this particular thing that we want to set out and do, and to accomplish that goal, we're going to pick a leader for a little bit, and that's going to be Bob, or it's going to be Nancy, or whoever." And then they step up to the plate, they get the job, they help get the job done, and then everyone goes home happy, knowing that they have a nice like skating rink in their town, like their town square or something like that. I don't know. But as long as it's voluntary and no one's coerced into doing it, then it's okay to do. So I'm just saying, but on the scale that we have now, it's nothing is voluntary. You know, I mean, up here in New Hampshire, it's actually getting a little bit better. There's people that they actually got a I'm gonna fuck it all up, but there are moves to secede from the United States federal government being tabled here in New Hampshire.
Hmm.
I met the guy who's like he's like in charge of the organization, and the bill actually made it pretty far. It got to some of the legislature here in New Hampshire, and that hasn't happened since the Civil War in this country. Not one legislature has even tabled a bill that says that this state is going to secede from the federal government for, you know, geez, nearly almost what 170 years. So
Hmm.
that's something, I think. I don't know, but these people, I met them. They're working pretty hard, and these libertarians here in New Hampshire specifically, they're not having me really reform, and go back to being any sort of statist, but I'm more than happy to ally myself with them because they want to reduce the size of government to almost being absolutely gone. So I'm willing to actually be friends with them because their goal is to peacefully roll back the government to avoid any violent bloodshed. And that's something that I really can get on board for
Mhm.
because I don't want it to be violent. I don't want this thing to go hot. You know, before the American Revolution, the colonists over here in the United States, they spent over a decade writing letters back and forth to the English Parliament over there, saying, "Here are our terms. Here is what we want. Please stop doing these things to us. We're not on the British Isles. We're over here in the colonies. Things are different over here, and we deserve different things." And blah 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 blah. All these, they tried for a long time to do things peacefully, and then it went hot. History tells us that this is what happens
Mhm.
when a powerful force comes to try to disarm disarm otherwise peaceful people, you know? So, and the colonists back then, they were objectively peaceful. They were being oppressed. They were held in a state of duress. A lot of reflections to what we're going through today. So, I know I'm kind of rambling on here, but the point that I'm really trying to make and to really drill into people's heads is sometimes concessions need to be made. I'm an anarchist. I think no government is the only right government. It needs to go away 100% completely. Do I want to just walk over to the wall and turn it off like a light switch? I think that would lead to even worse outcomes. I'm almost there where I'm like, okay, fuck it, whatever. You know, like I'm like this close to being there where I'm like, but I care too much for other people. I see the other people and I see myself in them. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that are not prepared for that. And I don't think they have to die. And I think that's what would happen.
Hmm.
You know, maybe I'm a cynic. I don't know. But I just don't want to shut the fucking thing off like a light switch and just let the chips fall where they may, because I think a lot of innocent people would get fucking murdered in the process, and I don't accept that as an answer. So, yeah, is there a way to peacefully roll this thing back? It's been tried in history before. We can try it again now. I don't think it's gonna happen. If I'm being quite honest, I don't think it's gonna happen, but I think it's worth a try to at least be able to say we tried,
Yeah.
you know? So we need to be able to, like, make concessions along the way. I think it's only rational that if there's people that are willing to try to roll it back peacefully, okay, I'm on your team. I'm not going to go and vote for any of you people, but I'm on your team. I'll come to the community center and help build something or other or whatever. I'll do the voluntary interaction, you know. But um, here in New Hampshire, there are ways to do there are ways that lowly little citizens like me can do our own personal checks and balances on our local mayors and politicians, and things like that, local school boards and things of that nature. There's ways to do checks and balances on these people, thanks to the Libertarian Party here in the state of New Hampshire, the Free State Project and everything. They've been working hard for like 21 years now in this state to like make a foothold and to really make an impact of showing the world what it would look like with the least being minarchist, having the least amount of government possible, where like 99% of the things that that happen on a daily basis are done through voluntary consensual relationships between people. But I just don't, I want 100% freedom. I don't want to have 1% slavery, you know? So it's like, but these people are actually really friendly. They're really nice, you know, they're very welcoming, and they throw a hell of a party. Uh, you know, and so like I don't know. Uh, I guess it's just like what to what end, um, to what different groups of people should we really be willing to segregate ourselves from with this ultimate ideology of anarchism? Because how segregated are you going to keep yourself? Yeah, sure. I despise statists, but I will still go and try to tell them about the principles of natural law. I will still try to go and convince them what anarchy really is, because I was a statist at one point and somebody didn't give up on me, and it got through to me eventually. So if it can happen with me, there are other people that are like how I was. They're like that right now. And if I don't speak up, then they'll never hear about what real anarchy looks like,
Yep.
what natural law is. So I despise them. I hate their fucking guts, but I'll still talk to them. I don't want anything to do with them, but I'll still like I have a moral obligation to tell them, like, hey, you're doing it wrong, because their wrong actions still affect me and my children,
Yep.
you know? So they don't have the right to do that. So if I'm not saying anything to them, then silence is you're complicit through your silence. So yeah, I hate their fucking guts. I wish they'd wake up though, because they're still, I don't know. It's a love-hate relationship. I love you because you're alive. I love you because you are life. You are spirit embodied in this corporeal form. You're here on this plane of existence, and I love you. But what you're doing while you're here is your actions are leading to the suffering of billions of other life forms, on trillions of other life forms on this planet, and only God only knows where else, you know. So for that, I hate your fucking guts. But there's, I don't know. I hope I'm not like soapboxing here or anything like that, but I have all this stuff on my mind. I just wanted to get it out there.
That's okay, because I think this is a subject that it keeps bringing the conversation, like, uh, uh, drastically. It becomes more violent with the time, and people are radicalizing themselves, and it's not only in the government, it's ideological influences in the culture. And if the problem resides in the mind, in the mental realm, the solution will be there. And the solution is to talk about this and push the information as much as we can, with the time we have, with the voice we have. And for that, we need to build something, this foundation that was talking earlier. This foundation needs to be as tough as it can, you know, with a solid relationships and communication, and understanding of what it means to be a group of people who are working on the same page for the same idea of freedom. And it doesn't matter if you're vegan, if you're intersectionalist, or you are flat earther. It doesn't matter, because the thing here is, it's not about the shape of the earth, or what orientation you are in, and what fetishes you're on, you know. It doesn't matter, what's matter. It's the well-being of ourselves and the people around us, and the people, our neighbors, and the children, and the elderly people. This is where we have to put our energy. It's autonomy, it's compassion, it's cooperation. It's all these things that we need to push. Reconciliation, I keep using this word again and again, because I think it's a good term that we can use for, if you're in the shadow working. It's a reconciliation with these aspect of ourselves, and I think it's very much into natural law. I think the solution for this slavery is natural law, in the understanding of it. Not only know it by heart, it's to really contemplate and meditate on these principles and understanding them. And after that is acting upon it, is the trivium method. This trinity, this crucial trinity that people must know. You must know this shit. You have to do it. Not you, James, but the people who are listening. I know you know all these things, because we're doing, like, sensibly the same work. We're working for bringing conscience into people. And I think is conscience is not only about this world that we're living in, but it's consciousness about yourself and how you are inside of you, and what are your behavior, what are your response to these stimuli, this violence, this repression, this regression, this stagnant society that we're doing. It's moving. It's not literally stagnant, but mentally, spiritually, we are in the bottom of the barrel. I mean, we have to work to go out of this barrel. And for the people who are intimately into this shadow working, great work, or spiritual means, we have to put aside these counterproductive rhetorics that we don't have the time anymore to just, like, steer the soup and bringing back all the bullshit and the misunderstandings and the difference of opinions. We have to go beyond that, and maybe we can deal with it later. But now I agree with James. It's very important to it's where do you put your care, your attention, and this is only a matter of will. Do you care enough to do the work? Some people will do it on the street, helping the poor people, and things like that. There's different way to do it. But for the people who wants to put their word out, like me and James and Mark Passios and Nate Cap and Will Keller and all these guys on the One Great Work, that are doing a incredible job to vulgarize this information. This is the solution for me is it's education, essentially. And we have to start with the children. Learn to the children what the cause and effect is, what natural law are. It's very important to tell them the truth about about these things. And I it's very difficult for people to understand when you don't have children, because you don't have this fire inside of you. When you know that this evil is looking at your children, it wants your children, wants to brainwash them and make them like influenceable and robotic and automatons and things like that. And we're seeing this tendency of inversion. This inversion is everywhere now. People who should work on the same page, they're not. And the people who should not work on the same page, and they should not build this empire, well, they're doing it. So there's a, yes, cognitive dissonance, a heavy cognitive dissonance, even in the members of this community. People say they want freedom, but they're doing the complete contrary when they're turning their back. So there's a lot of pretentious people, and it's very difficult to detect them. And some people, and I'm talking, I'm getting into the spiritual community there, because this is what I cover most of the time. It's spirituality, because it's so important. This aspect of ourselves, that it's about freedom. You have a comment about how can we heal that? What is the solution, the first solution that we should do to achieve that? And we're not talking to the people who are not in the communities. We're talking to the people who are in the communities right now, who are in the occult, or in the freedom movement, or in the spiritual movement. This is a message for them, essentially.
So is there a question in the chat? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's a question for me.
Oh, how do we heal them? Well, man, that's the tough work right there. We can't really heal them, can we? They have to heal themselves. You just have to show them the door. That's all we really can do, if we're being fair. So, in the same way that a lot of us have healed ourselves, as one method of doing so is just start doing an audit of your own actions and saying, "Oh, geez, what have I done? What have I done in the past? What am I doing in the present? And what can I do in the future to be better?" You know, because no one's perfect. We all do these things. We all do this self-auditing on a daily basis to make sure that we're keeping up with you know, that we're keeping up with acting morally, if you want to put it that way.
Hmm.
I like using that word because I think it encapsulates the concept quite well. Other people, want to talk about morality and just say right and wrong. That's fine with me. You know, it's not coming from a religious point of view necessarily because I'm not a religionist. Um, However, I'm also not an atheist because atheism is a religion too. But it's anyways, but that would be my advice toward anyone is to start really just and I know it sounds wicked selfish. Well, that's because it is in one manner of speaking. You focus on yourself, but the intent behind the focus of yourself is to improve how you interact with others to make sure that you're not impeding or getting in the way of them having a peaceful life. So this is why we do the inner work is to make sure that our bullshit isn't getting splattered against the wall and fucking flinging all over everyone else. That's the purpose of the inner work. And it's not until people realize you know, that some of these people are going to be able to break out of their shell and to really like have their eyes wide open to what's going on here. Why do any of this? Why? That's always, well, why should I do that? I'm perfectly fine the way things are. Well, no, you're not. Because if you think you're perfectly fine the way things are, eating, going through the drive-through, eating McDonald's, I like me a movie, I like me some television. I'm not gonna bitch about people watching TV or movies or anything like that. I'm cool with it, but let's face it, there's a lot of fatty boom baddies out there who do nothing with their lives, who are just sitting on their butts, being couch potatoes their entire life. And that's not good either. You know, you're squandering your time here. And we all have a finite amount of it in this corporeal form, you know? And hell, every every person who's just willing to sequester themselves to a life of couch potato-ness. Sit, where's my next handful of greasy potato chips to shove down my throat? Like, let me just pour the canola oil down I'm gonna wash it down with some vegetable oil, that kind of person. I know I'm being kind of mean, but it's sometimes the tough love that gets people's attention.
Hmm.
And it's like, yo, what the fuck? What are you doing with yourself? You know? So it's not only just spiritual healing, but it's like physical. And these things, they do run hand in hand. A lot of the time, the physical healing can't stop until the spiritual healing begins. Hey, did I say stop? I meant start. The physical healing can't start until the spiritual healing begins, you
Yeah.
know? And because the spiritual healing, it goes on in the mind, it goes on in the mind. There's a certain bodily aspect of it, but that's the physical part. So it starts up here, you know?
Hmm.
There's a reason why that the first principle of natural law is mentalism, because every other principle that comes after it relies on mentalism. It relies on your mindset, both to comprehend or to understand, and then other than the comprehension and understanding of the rest of the principles, it also takes a healthy mindset to perform the actions necessary in order to live a life according to those principles. You're not going to be able to actually understand cause and effect if you're not aware about your actions. So, because it's action based, cause and effect largely. So I'm just trying to spell it out for people that that is why the spiritual healing should begin first. Because whatever the ailment is, a self-inflicted wound, if you're, if you're one of these people that I described who's like just like killing yourself slowly, if you're drinking yourself to death, smoking cigarettes or whatever, maybe, I have no right to tell you what you can and cannot do with your body. That's your property or whatever. But I'm just looking out for people because I love people, and there's nothing I can do to stop you other than maybe I put an idea in front of you and then you do the thinking and then you do the healing. And then maybe you come and shake my hand a little while later and you just go, "Hey, man, I really needed to hear that. Thanks a lot." Because there's some people in my life that I've said that to, and that have done that for me. So pay it forward, reciprocate that towards someone else. It's about getting your mind in order first. So that's how the healing begins. And what you and I and other people, our participation in another person's healing can only really, in my opinion, unless there's some special circumstance in a relationship that is a voluntary consensual relationship between you and somebody very close to you, special circumstances apply. But on the vast, majority of situations, the extent of our right to get in the way of somebody else living their lifestyle, so long as that lifestyle is not harming anyone else, the only thing we can really do is say, "Hey, have you really put any thought into the way that you're living? Because you're killing yourself with heroin or you're drinking yourself to death. And I love you and I don't want you to do that to yourself. Or you're eating like shit and you're going to get cancer and you're going to fucking die." Or maybe you are watching too much television. Go outside and get barefooted and go play in the grass or something, right? There's nothing wrong about giving advice towards somebody that you legitimately care about. So that's our outside extent, in my opinion. So
Mhm.
that's what I think about it, right? So I hope that answers your question.
Sure. Um, I mean, based on your experience, uh, uh, I mean, we have all suffered and went through pain in our lives, and I think our our one of our goals is how to cope with these information that we're bombarded with. I mean, how many times that you were deceived, that I was deceived in our life is you cannot count it. It's impossible, because there's so many lies that we have to go over, and you discover these lies and then get rid of them, and at least being honest with yourself, and I think it's to complete what James was saying, it's about self-respect, and you cannot give something you don't have. If people don't have respect or self-love, they cannot give it ever. It doesn't work that way. So there's there's layers of schism in the mind of the people, and we as such, as great workers, as content creators, we can only use this voice and this knowledge and these rhetorics to help people to get back their power. And I want to repeat that. I repeat it almost every time. The first thing that we should do, yes, shadow working, you know look at these dark corners of ourselves. But I lost my idea there. God damn it.
You
I
were
mean,
saying,
there's plenty of way of to treat it. And the one thing that, yes, that's it. The one thing we have to do is stop lying to ourselves. Stop lying to other people. And I think this one is very important because of this when you don't, if you didn't condition your brain or your mind to be silent, to put a stop, a pause into it, then you're gonna have this psychic noise. I keep come bring that back all the time, because I think this little voice that we have in our heads is not necessarily coming from us. I think this programming, this cultural indoctrination that we're living in, I think it's very hard to get rid of it because of the influence of your friends, your family, and maybe your children. If they're going to school, what kind of rhetorics that they're coming with. You know, when you have these fucking clowns, Marxists in the schools, you know, telling to our children that socialism and communism is good, you know, and that you shouldn't identify yourself with parts of your body, you know. I mean, this shit is making me mad, and this is why I don't talk about it too much, because
Yeah.
in Canada,
Sorry.
if you talk, and if you misgender someone, you can like get sued about.
Hmm.
So that's that. First of all, freedom of expression, it's not arguable. Okay, I will say whatever I fucking want. You know, if I want to call you a beaver, I'm gonna call you a beaver. That's it. And I think this is one of the things that I want to bring in saying no when it's the time to say it, and not take a step back and being afraid of saying it. It's learn to say no when you don't want to, when you don't want to give your consent. It's our job to say no. And I think it's going like it's coming back to for full circle now with what you were saying about statism. you know if you know that a government is slavery and violence, why do you consent to it? And this is cognitive dissonance. Most people are in total cognitive dissonance about this, and about religions, and about spirituality, and about even in the occult community and in the freedom community. There's plenty of work to do, and this work is let let me be clear with people who are listening now. In the great work, when you do podcasts like that, you repeat a lot, because people are thick-headed.
Well, that and
Yes,
not everyone's gonna listen to every episode.
sure. Yeah, I mean, even in French, I know there's some French people who are listening right now. So, salut tout le monde. Um, I mean, there's a lot of people who don't know this work, and this is why we have to be together. To the people in our community, in the one great work community, or in the freedom communities, because there's a lot of them. We have to stop this fucking nonsense and build something. I know the one great work is something. I know there's conferences and things like that are built up, but we have to go further. Is to build something locally. you know Here in Quebec, where I am, there's nothing
Come south.
about this. So I mean, we have to build it. We have to work through it. And I don't want people to follow me. I want people to listen what I have to say. And then, is it make sense for you? If it makes sense, I encourage people to do your own work. Do your research. Do go out and go see the world and talk with them, and you'll see that moral relativism, solipsism, and social Darwinism are very, very present, and it's very hard to convince people. So the only thing we can do is suggestion, talking about this stuff, and doing it freely, whenever you want. And I want to bring that, and it's very important because I think some people are trying to start too perfect. They don't want to start on the bottom of the ladder and climb up with the time. They want to start and do it, and it doesn't work that way. We have to start somewhere, and this somewhere is James. I've mentioned it. The first thing with the work is to do your inner work. Are you ready to confront contrary opinions? Because there's gonna be people who's not gonna be in they're not gonna agree on what you're saying, and what we're saying, and it's okay to be wrong, and it's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah.
It's okay to not be perfect, because nobody is perfect. We have to go forward, beyond, and let this fucking shit go. Let it go. That's it. We just need to let your baggage, your belief, your experiences, and put your experiences into work. You want to do something, do it now. This is now. We need people now, not tomorrow, yesterday, last week, actually. This is where this, and I keep on repeating all the time. Do it. Don't wait. And I want to bring up people to um James website, the freeyourmindany.com. Go there. Go encourage the people, the content creator, the event organizers, and all these people working hard to bring this information. onegreatworknetwork.com. Even locally, you have people who are doing some little pages. Maybe it's on Facebook, maybe it's on Telegram. Join up together. Don't be a fool, and do it. You want to join with people, just do it. That's it. And we need all of you, everyone who are listening now or will listen in the future, the recent future. It's your job. It's all our job to do it. Where can we find your stuff outside of the freeyourmindany.com, James?
Oh, my podcast is posted everywhere that podcasts can be posted. I have a YouTube channel. You basically just type in a hitchhiker's guide to truth, and anywhere like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, type it into YouTube, Odysee, Rumble, everywhere. There's a channel on every platform. Not every but, like, the not every, platform channel has all of my stuff on there. I'm working on it, alright? I'm one guy. I am a one-man band, and I'm just trying my best but that's why I always recommend people just go to my website, freeyourmindne.com, and there's multiple ways to contact me through there. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, whatever, you wanna yell at me about something I said, go for it. Do it. I'm not gonna argue with you, and it's not because I think I'm ultimately correct. It's just that I'm just so tired of arguing with people that I just don't wanna do it anymore, and I have the right to not do that. I don't wanna argue. You know what? Because one thing that I am correct on, and it's the only thing that at this point in my life that I care about, really, when it comes to ideological differences and, that kind of thing. When it comes to ideology or the things that the hill that you'll die on, there's only one real thing that I care about is whether or not you think that government is legitimate, whether or not you think that we need government. That's all I care about right now. And if that makes me a radical extremist, then I guess I'm a radical extremist. Sorry that I love freedom. Sorry I love my kids. Sorry that I don't want them to be debt slaves. Sorry that I don't want them to be conscripted into some foreign war. Sorry that I don't want my wife to, have to bury one of our kids because of one of these foreign wars. God knows what the fuck the future is going to bring, but right now I can speak up and peacefully attempt to avoid some of those possible outcomes that have repeated themselves over and over and over again throughout all of human history. When are we going to learn? When are we going to come to terms with the fact that the only thing that hasn't ever been legitimately tried, given an honest try, is saying, hey, how about we all just stop hurting each other? And how about we all just stop stealing each other's stuff? When's the last time anybody really made a movement about that? Well, right now, the guys like Fred, the people at the One Great Work Network, including that includes me. I'm over there. There's a lot of people in this state of New Hampshire here that have a mindset. This is why I'm willing to be friendly and friends with them, even though they are minarchist, which is a very shallow form of statism. Okay, whatever. I'm not trying to contradict myself, really, but geez, don't hurt people. Don't steal their stuff. We should all just be focused on that. And, let's clean up the pieces. Let's clean up the other messes too. But let's take that plan. Let's take that idea to the fullest extent. Why not? What's so bad about that? And if that makes me a radical extremist, then I guess sign me up. Put me on a list. I bet I'm on many. I'm already on a few. I know it for a fact. So it's like whatever, man. But I hate to say it like that. It's like I don't care because you know what? I do care about all those other things, but in the kind of modern parlance of our time, I'm using the phrase I don't care. I do care. Deep down in my soul, I care about a lot of things. But what am I willing to what am I willing to get up and start screaming about? Don't hurt people. Don't steal their stuff. Don't be a dick. So are we
Thank
calling it? Are we cutting loose here?
No, yes, it's an hour and 18 minute now, and I think it's a beautiful message to end on, and this is a call for everyone who are in these communities who's gonna hear this message. It's time. It's not that we don't need it tomorrow. We need it today, now. This is the time now, and build this community up. So thank you everyone for being there. I've been looking at the comments, always beautiful comments, no trolls. Thank God for that. You know, I'm very, very, very severe when it comes to clowns like that. Um, I don't have any patience at all. So yeah, I'm blessed with having no problem with them. And they're so I think the subject is way too serious to joke about, and this is why I created the LIBERcast. I wanted to put an end to this ignorance, and I think everyone on the One Great Work, or the people who are working outside the network, the freedom people, the freedom community, this is all we want. We want to take care of this civilization, of this society, of the people we're sharing our life with. It's about care, it's about love, and this is where we have to join together and work on the same page. I'm gonna keep on repeat this in the future. It's let's do it. Let's put the shit aside and go. Let's do it. So thank you again, James, for being there tonight. I appreciate this time you gave me and that you gave to the people. Thank you so much, man.
Oh, no, thank you for having me. If I may, I have to mention one last thing. Seed 5 is coming up in September, and this is hosted by Brandon Martin and, Nate Cap, Douglas Martin. These are like the primary organizers of the Seed conferences in the past and present. So September 23rd and the 24th of this year, 2023, Seed 5 Metamorphosis. So if you want to, go over to seedtruth.com and check out that website, navigate that website, and find out more about this amazing conference that's coming up. We're going to be talking about natural law, the occult, philosophy, freedom, so much more. There's going to be jam-packed 2 days, the 23rd and the 24th of September, and it's just going to be so much fun. And there's room for everybody, so you don't need to be on the up and up. There's going to be something there for everybody. There's going to be, intermediate, expert, beginner level type of topics, being discussed, and it's going to be fun. So don't miss it. Seriously, it's a free online event, and what better thing to do on, what is it, the fall equinox, right? September 23rd and the 24th is right after the equinox, isn't it? So that's, yeah, I think that's what it is. So get it, do it. Let's go. I'm giving a presentation there. It's going to be called Fear is Illusion, where I'm going to basically dissect this egregore this egregore of government. For those who don't know, an egregore is basically an entity that only relies on people's belief in order to
Hmm.
exist. So that's like Santa Claus, is an egregore. So
Yeah.
a government is an egregore.
Hmm.
So this is what my primary focus is going to be on, and the way that government um, makes its existence is through fear. So I'm going to be diving into that, and hopefully it can help some people. So that's all I got to say, man. I'm going to get out of here. It's 10:30.
So
Thank
thank
you.
you, thank you
Thank,
again.
no, Fred.
And
Seriously, thank you for real. Like this was great, and I'm glad to reconnect with you, man. And I can't wait until the next time we get into an argument.
so next show is gonna be on Tuesday 18 with Mario West. It's gonna be super interesting. He's always have this interesting way to approach and talk about things. So join up and take care, everyone. See you in the 18.